Hey, hey, hey.
Hi.
How
Morning.
are Good morning. How are you? Oh, I have my coffee.
Good. Same.
I forgot about this.
I
Cheers.
got a cool cup from Goodwill. Look for these cups at Goodwill. They're there.
Yeah. Oh my, what Goodwill do you go to? Like what area of town?
Oh,
Do you
like
want to say? Oh, okay.
Gilbert, Tempe, Chandler, everything in my house. Where'd you get that? Yard sale, Goodwill, thrift store.
You find the best things though. But I think it just takes time. And I'm just not a patient person anymore.
It does. And like it becomes fun. And then just like anything else, this is because my mom, because she resells, it's because of her that we could like spot things out that are really good. Like it, and then it just like pops out at you eventually, you know? So
Yeah. No, I think for me, it's just like I have something in my head and I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna buy it because I just want it now. I don't want to keep looking. But I think when I see your stuff like in your house and you're like, and you do get it from, these vintage places, like used places, I'm like, "Ugh, I just need patience. I just need patience."
also I'm broke as hell, and that like creates a lot of motivation to be like, I'm good with whatever I find, even though I am more of the person that would love to just get it on Wayfair, get it on more expensive
But
sites.
then you buy it full price and then you're broke now like me. So now you're like, well, I should just bought it
All sucks.
used and then just kept it looking. So
It all
um
sucks, I guess.
yeah. Yeah. So lots of updates, I
Yeah.
think, in both of our lives. I don't know, do you want to go first and then we'll just
Yeah.
hop into it?
I
All right.
I get married in a few weeks.
Oh my
I
gosh.
like had to say that out loud yesterday because it was like holy shit.
Yeah.
Um, but then we have you with us that day. We have Reed with us that day. And like all of our best friends. So we're so excited, and it's like finally too, freaking finally. And
Finally
yeah,
married and hitched. Yeah, because your batch party is coming up, which I'm so excited for. And then your bridal shower, and there's so many things
yes.
along with just obviously the most beautiful day this year, right? But
Right. There's
um
so much to look forward to. And I think like I kind of keep getting asked like, why are you so calm? Or you're so calm, or why are you not stressed? It's because I've
yeah.
had like almost 3 years to plan this out because we had to keep postponing, which so glad that happened. The more time you have to plan a wedding, the better. It keeps the stress like way down. And
Yeah.
then we are just excited. Like I get kind of grumpy and sad when things end, so I'm really trying to enjoy it because a wedding is just the thing that you plan and plan and plan and then it's over. I
It's
don't,
over in a couple hours. It's like
yeah,
how
it's crazy. So
I know.
just trying to enjoy it because I think it's gonna be a little rough for me the following day. But we took the next like the following day off, the following week off, really. Um,
Good.
just to enjoy it. And then we have the honeymoon to look forward to. So,
Where are you going? Do you know yet?
we're going to Oahu. Yeah,
Hawaii. Oh my
my
God.
first time, his first time. So
That's gonna be so
awesome.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
What
my
about you
gosh.
though?
Well, we are in the process of selling our house. We moved to downtown Phoenix in
Yay.
an apartment for right now, but it's such a vibe down here. Like I know it's like such a
It
weird thing to say,
is.
but I love saying that. But it's such a
It's
vibe.
one of the best vibes.
It
Hands
is. I feel
down.
like I belong. Like I feel like everybody that we meet, I feel like 80% of the people in this building have dogs. I feel like I don't know, everyone that we run into is just so nice. And I felt like, oh, I feel like a community down here. And I'm
Yeah,
definitely like a city girl. So I just feel like
same.
I don't know, like working from home, I was starting to like feel a little depressed, feel a little lonely. So now that we're down here, it's like throughout the day, I can just go get coffee, or in the morning, like my morning ritual is like I wake up, I get the dogs, we go get our coffee. I had the cutest drink last Friday. It was a little Easter bunny drink and had like a little peep on my cup. And I was like, this is a vibe. This is like the best day of my
This
life.
is what we moved here for.
It doesn't take much to impress me, as you can see, but it was the best day of my life. And so, yeah, it's and like it moving, gets me walking, and everywhere we've had so far has been like the best food. So yeah, so we moved here and it's been a couple of weeks. So we kind of made the decision like a month ago. So it's kind of been a little chaotic.
Glad you guys did it. Like you just did
I
it.
know.
You've been wanting to like
For so long.
and well, I think
Yeah.
you've been wanting like the community and like you guys really value the like obviously the community, but culture. And
We
it's all
do,
about
yeah.
culture down there. So
I
culture
think,
of like
yeah.
people our age living down there and the fun
Yeah.
things to do on the weekends and at nights. And there's just a lot of cool new businesses popping up constantly down there too, which that's just Arizona is great at that.
It really has. Like I was talking to, there's a new couple that was visiting here, and it's a lively environment just in general, like Arizona, because we're such an outdoorsy state, like everybody's out and about. But really, in the last 5 years, especially downtown. I mean, I know the West Valley everywhere is really expanded, but downtown has really grew in the past 5 years. I would never really consider living down here 5 years ago. And it's like, I think they said this year there's like 25 new restaurants coming in, and like it's nice. It's nice to feel like a community again, because I think Arizona is so spread out that I think like now, like especially that we have downtown areas, that it really like enables everybody to like come together. And it's just like a lively environment. Like on Mondays, we'll be like walking the dog, like everybody's out and about, and like I hear people out in the streets like playing music and
Like
yeah.
my
So
mom like always said that, and I feel like this rubbed off on us, that like if she lived next to a park or a school, it was never annoying to like hear all of the commotion, because it was just like, oh, life is going on like right outside my window. It's nice.
Yeah. And it's so funny because I always like have this feeling, and it sounds like sad in a way, but like I don't mean it in a sad way. Like I'm inside and I love hearing people having fun and having parties outside. And it's like, wouldn't you want to be part of that? And it's like, well, I do, but like I love others, like I'm surrounded by things happening. Yeah. Whereas like where we were before, we loved our neighbors, we loved everything, like people we were by, but it's like because everybody's kind of settled in like their own home, they didn't really come out as much. Like Reed and I are just such lively people, and the fact that we just have to be out and about, or we want to be around people. And so we kind of felt secluded, and we kind of felt like we were in our own environment before. And it just like, we kind of felt alone because of that. And so now that we like are inside our apartment and we hear there's things happening around us, we're like, oh my gosh, like this is awesome. Yeah. So it's been good. It's been a crazy month. I swear we've had so much going on, so like with moving and everything.
Yes.
So it's just nice once we get our couch, because we have our bed coming Monday, we get our couch next week. Like once we like, get everything, like all of our boxes out of here, I'll feel like much more at peace, because I don't like, everyone wants to see our apartment too. And I'm like, no, like I don't want you to see it yet. It's not ready.
Not yet. Hold your horses.
Hold your horses, people.
Why
but
haven't you invited us over?
I know, we get that. I'm like, I feel bad, but I'm like, it's not you, it's me. It's not you. Like, it's like, I want you over, but it's like, I'm the kind of person, like, I'm very much into design. I want like our house to be our party fully decked out and perfect. So in 2 weeks, look for an invitation. 2 weeks, we're going to do like a dinner, bar hopping, and then like see our place. So
I can't wait. But yeah, take your time, because I didn't invite my grandparents over when we moved into this house for the longest time. And she was like, can I come see your house? Can we come over? We don't care.
Yeah.
No. But no, we're so happy for you guys. Pablo was like, wow, that's so cool that they did that, because you've been wanting something like that for a long time. So we're excited.
It's been a long time. Yeah, I know people are always like, that's so good, you guys. We're like, yeah, we're kind of people, it's like we want something, we're just gonna do it. Like if we want something, if we're not happy, if we need to switch things up, we just do it, and there's no like second guessing.
Yeah.
We have one life to live. Yeah. So that's how we feel. But just been between both of us, just lots of things going on. Just busy, which is I guess, good. So
Crazy but awesome.
crazy, but awesome. So
Okay, so let's take it down kind of a notch to our
yeah.
topic. It's a good topic and it's going to be a positive one, but I think it's an important one to talk about because it's not easy, which is self-worth and like what it means, what determines self-worth, why we struggle with it, and how to, determine your self-worth in a healthy way is kind of our topic today.
Yeah, and I think kind of going off of our last session, we kind of talked about like, what we give our self-worth, like how we know what our self-worth is, and it's like what we give power to.
Yeah.
And I think that we kind of led that off on our last podcast of just saying, at the end of the day, you give power what you give power to. So it's like if you have something holding over you, or you have something, or if you rely on another thing for happiness, it's because you give that other thing that power, right? To hold that over you. So it's like kind of going off of that last topic of like what we give power to, it's like knowing your self-worth in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So I like what you shared with me, to kind of go off of like some research, just because it's always good to go off of data of self-worth and confidence. Like to me, that really stands out, because I think like I like the part where it says like that you have self-confidence in many different avenues, right? We put there's confidence in your activities you do, there's confidence in like your skill set, like it's not just about appearance or like body. And I think like I never thought about that before.
And I think like I liked this article because I think why self-worth is so confusing and hard to, I don't know, like
wrap our head
I used to
around.
get really annoyed when people were like, know your worth.
Mm-hmm.
Am I supposed to be adding up numbers? Like, I don't understand what
Is
you're
that my bank
talking
account?
about.
Because I should be concerned.
There an actual number along with my self-worth, because I thought we weren't putting a number on ourselves, but obviously
Yeah.
it's not about numbers. And so that's why I liked this article, because it kind of talked about, like, first and foremost, it said self-worth versus self-esteem, self-worth versus confidence. What's the difference, I guess? And so I guess, let's see. Oh, and there was a term that it had called self-value, which I think is cool, because basically at the end of this article, it wraps it up and just says, you need to think back to what you value and have that determine your worth in a sense. Like, I don't think you should really tie yourself to anything. Like, you shouldn't tie your self-worth to a whole lot. But with that, it was like the healthy things that can help you build self-worth are things that are just not tangible. So
Yeah.
surrounding yourself with those who know unconditional love, respect, and just like positive regard. And then it's like cue yourself to also give those things to people. Because I think when you get and give, having both of those things can build your self-worth, self-confidence, and it just feels good to do things for other people too.
I like that.
Give yourself opportunities to experience success, but also failure with that success, and trying to appreciate both. And we'll go over a list of like self-worth examples that we've been conditioned, I guess, to have determine our self-worth, which is we shouldn't. So we'll go over that. And then I like how it just kind of ended with saying like what truly matters when determining your self-worth is kindness, compassion, empathy, respect for others, and how they treat those around them. Which was like, okay, thank God, like I can work with that.
Yeah.
No, that's what self-worth was tied to, really, but so it was refreshing to hear that, I guess.
That sounds refreshing. Yeah, I'm excited to see like what examples it gives, just because I want to be able to relate it and connect to my life right now. So I'm excited to see like what it gives and like how I can attach meaning.
Yeah, should I list those
Yeah,
out?
let's just like jump into it on this Sunday.
Do it.
Just do it.
Oh, and I'll credit the source too.
Yeah.
It's all coming from positivepsychology.com. What could be wrong with that? And so things that determine self-worth that don't actually have anything to do with you being a human, it's a lot of things. So sit tight. It's appearance, net worth, who you know in your social circle, what you do / your career, what you achieve, your to-do list, your social media following, your age, other people, how far you can run, your grades, the number of friends you have, your relationship status, the money that is or is not in your bank account. And I thought this was interesting, what you like what you like as a person. So
Like back to that running, like, is this like how far you can run? Is there a time limit? Or is this just like in general, like if you're given like so many, like a week, like the distance that you can get to? Because
that's broad.
you know,
It's
yeah,
broad.
it's a broad. Because if it's like, no, I can't run a lot and I can't run far.
And how does
I
that
can,
make you feel though? Doesn't make me feel good. It kind of shoots my self-worth down a little bit when I think about it. Just
yeah,
running in general, makes me sad.
yeah. I think like I just think of like as a human being kind of going to that, like there's barriers for me with that. You know what I mean? The reason why I can't run far is because I don't have the skill set to do that. And I don't have the motivation, because why run when I can walk and get to the same place, maybe a different time? You know what I mean?
Walk,
But
don't
like,
run.
yeah, but then I think like if I was being chased by a psychopath, sure, maybe I would pick it up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think we'd all like
Joking aside,
get
yeah.
some kind of motivation to book it. But I think too, like like that goes back to the whole point. Like, think about like what you're comparing yourself to, but then ask yourself, like, do I even give a shit? Do I even like running? No. So I'm definitely not gonna let it fuck with my self-worth anymore.
Yeah.
What else? Which one stood out? What's another one that stood out to you?
I think and this is something that I've always said, and I know some people are iffy on it, but like your surrounding, like I firmly believe you are who you surround yourself by. And what I mean by that is if you're surrounded by morally just people, or just good people in general, and I mean like just morally just, then I think you as a person, because you value the same things they value typically, that you're morally just, right? If you're with some people that are always about what's right and wrong and that they're morally just and they want to do the right thing, at the end of the day, you somewhat are that way, because you are going to value the same, you're going to have things in common with them. But if you're surrounded by people who maybe, you know, you have those troublemaker friends, or they're, you know, they're maybe not the best people to hang around with, you are going to do things that maybe aren't the best. And I think we all have those friends, or throughout college, we did maybe not the best things because we saw people that were also doing it and we felt we needed to. And so again, like I think you are who you hang out with. And so I think throughout my lifetime, I have been a complete bitch. To, you know, and I know that was my friend group because they were mean and they were mean to people. So I started doing that. And so I changed that and I said, okay, well, I need to change who I hang out with. Because if I keep hanging out with these people, even though I know what I'm doing is bad and wrong, one, silence is the same thing as doing it. So if I don't say anything, I'm still agreeing with what they do because I'm being silent. And then two, I would just do what they did. I'd be really mean to other girls in our sorority back at my old school. I would be mean and say awful things. And it's just because I was around people who did that, and that's kind of enabled that behavior. And I full on take accountability for that. And I was like, you know what? I'm being a rude person. I don't like it. So I'm going to change who I hang out with. And so when I heard that statement of like, you know, your self-value, your self-worth, and like it's who you hang out with, I firmly believe that. Like I firmly believe like what you value in life, like who you hang out with is going to have a huge impact on you.
You think it determines who you are like fully? And does it determine your self-worth, I guess, if you're like behaving not
yeah I struggle with that because like you could do bad things doesn't make you a bad person. You know what I mean? Like I
I'll
don't
make
feel like,
mistakes. Like,
yeah, we all make mistakes, but I think that hindsight, the kind of big component is like you have to know and you have to take accountability, because if you don't know what you're doing is wrong, then I think that there's a call out there, right? Where you kind of have self-reflection. Um, and I think that's hard. And I don't know how to answer that question then, because I don't think you do a bad thing, you're a bad person. But I think that there's a call out there of like, you have to be able to know and reflect though and see that what you did was bad. And I think that a lot of people do bad things and they don't know that it's bad. And for me personally, like I knew what I was doing was bad. I knew I had to change who I was around because they weren't making me a better person.
yeah. So I forgot to go over the actual definition for self-worth.
Yeah.
Also. And I just think that's important to know because again, like, is it like self-esteem? Is it like self-confidence?
Yeah, I don't even know.
And it's like
Yeah.
yes and no. But self-worth is a feeling that you are a good person who deserves to be treated with respect. So it really does just like, I guess, self-esteem, you get through esteemable acts. So I guess that's more of like an action thing, like what you do throughout the day that it's just gonna make you feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
Self-confidence is just like knowing you can do it, like more of a belief thing. But really, self-worth is just about your character and knowing that you're a good person with good character who deserves to in turn be treated like one, aka being treated with respect. I think most of us believe that everybody deserves to be treated with respect, even those who again don't have idyllic behavior. But
Mhm.
I think, I don't know, sometimes that's a little too simple. Like I want it to be more complicated than that when it's just
It
not.
is. Yeah, it is, because you think like, and I'm guilty of this where I'm like, no, they're a bad person, they did a bad thing,
Mhm.
and that's how I label them. And I have a habit of like, no, Courtney, at the end of the day, they did a bad thing, they're not a bad person. And I'm just like very like, I did not think I was like such a concrete person on that, but I found like I am. Like I'm like, no, that was fucked up. Like that they're a bad person.
Yeah.
It's like, no, they just did a bad thing. Right. And I think like that's hard for me to sit back and reflect on and like say, right? Because we all make mistakes, or like we all have different perspectives. Um I think like I was like went to a counseling session recently, and it kind of like gave me this in like a good way of like, so there's an accident on the highway, right? And I'm on one side of the street, and let's say you're on the other side of the street. We both see the same accident, but we might see from different perspectives, right? You may think the other car did something that I didn't see, and I thought the other car maybe did something else. Like it's a thing of like we both see the same thing, but we're both have different perspectives on it. And I think that when it comes to self-worth and valuing and seeing like, character in people, I think like that's something I always have to keep in mind is like, no, like there's always different perspectives. There's always different things that we also just don't know about. So we can't really judge somebody by something that they do, because we don't know the story behind it.
Mhm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
It
But
does. It does.
okay.
And like that's a hard thing. I feel like I'm just now able to like sit well with that and like giving other people a chance. Like
Yeah.
relax. You don't even know what they're about. You don't even, and I think that's just a maturity thing and takes time to just like be super patient with people even when they're being a total dick. Try
Yeah.
to understand someone even if they're lashing out at you, honestly, like at work. Like when I worked in
Yeah.
the restaurant industry, I was just a spaz. Like I just had so much energy. So that like nothing could have hurt my feelings. I don't know. I was just like bouncing off the walls all the time. Because it's just, I think the energy has a lot to do with it too.
I
But
love that.
when a customer would get mad, it was just like, okay, like just hear them out, just let them let it out.
Mhm.
But then like other times I'll cry and like want to cuss you out for even looking at me sideways. Depends. And it's just like
Yeah.
I like what you're saying is hard to do, but you're right. Like knowing that people still deserve respect, and
Mhm.
like your understanding and your patience. It's hard. That's a hard one.
It is hard, especially when it's personal, right? Like
Yeah.
what I just said, it's not personal because not that I don't care about that accident, but it's not involved. It doesn't directly involve me, so it's not as personal. Now, when something happens to me personally, then it's more emotions over my mind, right? Like it's more like I'm thinking more with my heart than my head. And so I think about the different perspectives. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. That's logical. But when it has to do with you personally, it's like your emotions are gonna come out more. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you filter through that? And like, no, like, let's look at it from a different angle. And that's so hard to be reflexive like that and be like, okay, I need to reflect on it and take a step back. Because in the moment, I'm like, I can get heated. I'm like, no, like that's so wrong, you know. And it's like I hate that I'm always like that. But I mean, some people say it's morally just, and I like to say I'm morally just of a person. But at the same time, it's like no, morally just people like they can also see that like you can't, judge someone so harshly on one thing.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, too, it's also like you don't always have to agree with the person, but you need to respect them. And I think that's my key on every situation I'm in lately. I'm like, Courtney, you don't need to agree with them, which is hard because you always want to be like on the same page with people,
Mhm.
but you need to respect them. And I think that's what I think a lot of people need to learn, especially me, is like I at least know of it, but like how do you in the moment take a step back, reflect, and then be like, oh yeah, like we don't have to be on the same page, but at the end of the day, we need to be respectful and respect one another. And that is so freaking hard. I don't even know the answer to that other than just like take a step back and reflect. I think that's easier said than done. But
Yeah. And so I figured maybe we could go over examples where our self-worth was like tested or where we kind of realized, oh, this is what self-worth is. Oh, I have
mhm.
it. Do you have an example of anything, like a situation where you had to recognize your self-worth and kind of like fight for it? I can go first if you I have
Yeah, yeah, you go first. You take lead on
a lot of
this.
work-ish situations from the past 5 years that like there will be certain situations that make you go, oh, that's self-worth. Oh, I have self-confidence. And this was one of them. Like when I worked for a school district, um, my position was gonna be absorbed by a new outside vendor company. And I could tell they were trying to help me out by maybe passing me on to that company to get a raise because I kept bringing that up. Like, I need a raise. Like, this isn't enough money. And so it started out with good intentions, but I think most of us know, like, when a company transitions to work with another one, it's a fucking nightmare. And it was.
Yeah.
But I just had the realization when it was all happening, like, oh, I'm going to have to like fight for myself a little bit here because I have these two companies on like one on each shoulder telling me a million different things, not on the same page. Like they don't have their shit together collectively. So I'm going to have to like stand strong and like just stick to what I want and what I need and how I want to be treated. And so
Mhm.
again, like I think self-worth has a lot to do with how you're treated and what you deserve, and that is respect. And
Yeah.
so, and like that, it was hard because the things I was requiring and the things I was asking for, that was my perspective. Their perspective, they were like, what do you mean? What, huh? What? Like they didn't get it. And so
Right.
you either have to communicate like what you want and why you don't deserve what they're doing to you. Cause I didn't deserve what they were doing to me, just playing monkey in the middle with me, basically.
Mhm.
Um, and I spoke up and communicated like I don't want this or this, so I can't work for your company, which is what I originally kind of agreed to. And so, but from their perspective, they didn't get it. So
Mhm.
that was a good realization of one, what self-worth was, made me realize I had it, and that if like you want to put a price tag on it or whatever, to me it's priceless. Like don't fuck with it
Yeah.
at all. The
Yeah.
the price of it is through the roof. It's priceless. AKA you are not going to treat me with disrespect. You're just not.
Yeah.
Because I'm also going to be respectful first.
Right. Yeah.
And then it was a good, like, it was just a good learning lesson, like, to also know that you're kind of on your own when it comes to determining your self-worth and sticking to it. And that it was just a good realization, like, I didn't want to do that by myself, but I did it, and it sucked. It stressed me out, but it got me into such a better place because of sticking to what I knew about myself, and that was knowing that I deserved a respectful workplace.
That is awesome. And I think like so many, like, one, it speaks volumes of yourself in general, like the fact that you were able to like stand up for what you wanted, especially because I think so many like women, especially like when it comes to money, it's that we just like don't know how to approach a situation like that. And I think that that was a great example of how to get the conversation started, at least like with someone that you know has that control of the money, to be like, hey, like this is like what I think I deserve, or I know I deserve, like, and I want
Yeah.
XYZ to happen. So I think that was a great example.
And I didn't do it perfectly by any means. I
Yeah.
took the challenge on and stuck with it, but there were moments where I was in tears. There were moments where I talked to my supervisors in a way that I probably shouldn't have. Like, I let the emotions get the best of me. So I didn't like, I didn't navigate the situation perfectly at all. I probably could have done a lot better.
So you use your voice,
Just the
you
fact
know.
of using your voice and just like sticking to what you know you deserve, which is, for me, it's the best, because I think both of us, like, we treat people the best to the best of our ability. Why don't we deserve the same in return? And the shitty thing is,
Yeah.
you have to allow it or not. Nobody's gonna do it for you, I guess.
Right. Yeah, no one cares as much as you do, so you need to be the one.
Nobody
No,
knows.
I struggle like with self-worth and really understanding, like, I at the end of the day, like I know my worth, like I know how I should be treated,
Mhm.
you know, both in relationships and just like in any relationship, whether it's personal relationship, intimate relationships, work relationships, like I know how I should be treated and talked to.
Yeah.
um at the same time though, you know, when it comes to relationships, I've, you know, have felt like what is my self-worth, like what it changes so often with me, of like sometimes I question, like, you know, do I care to that person as much as they care about me? And I think like is this confidence or is it self-worth? And sometimes I get those confused, because in moments I'm like, no, you don't talk to me that way, but then there's other moments where I'm like questioning, like, am I good enough? And so I don't know, like, is it self-worth that I struggle with, or is it self-confidence I struggle with?
Yeah. I
And
think,
that's hard.
okay, so self-worth is kind of like, we should definitely revisit the definitions as much as we can.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's hard to remember these things too. And
Yeah.
when you're in a work meeting being disrespected, you're not thinking, okay, self-worth, stick to the self-worth. Like, you're
Yeah.
just, like,
Right.
going about your day. But I think self-worth, like, it's knowing how you should be treated. But then, like, confidence
Yeah.
is where you're like, I'm standing still on this. And I think it's also just the way you go about it. Like, you're not like, I deserve this, and
Right.
which is fine, because that's kind of like, I don't know, like, that's kind of how I was in my work situation. Like, I knew these things, but I was nervous to like stand my ground at first. So I guess the self-confidence is like, no, I'm positive. This is what
Yeah.
like, no,
So that being said,
myself.
I definitely have high self-worth. I definitely like will say I know physically what I deserve. I put up with a lot of shit that I would probably shouldn't deal, you know, put up with, but I know at the end of the day, like I know what I deserve. Like I know how I should be treated. I know how I should be talked to. Again, I'm very vocal about that.
Yeah.
Um, but I liked what you said about the confidence part, because I liked what the article said about the confidence part, and that like you can have self-confidence, but you can have different, you know, levels of it in other places. So for example, like my self-confidence with work is very high. Like I'm very confident with what I do. I speak with confidence. But like on a personal level, with like we talked about with our esteem and like our appearance, like I think I maybe have a little bit lower self-confidence in that bucket. But in other buckets of my life, like my hobbies, activities, like I feel like I have very high self-confidence. And
Mhm.
so I think that's always like good to tell ourselves is like when we're feeling down about maybe one thing in our lives, whether it's our appearance, whether it's something we're doing, I think it's good to visualize all the buckets in your life. Like, okay, well,
Mhm.
I am maybe a lower self-confidence here right now, but I'm doing really well in other things. And I
I
think that's
love
such
that.
that's
Yeah.
such an important thing to think about. And I didn't think about it until like you said self-confidence, and then that article mentioned like you can have different buckets of it. And I think that as a human being, it's okay throughout your day or throughout your week, if you think of it as like a bucket being filled, it's okay for some buckets to maybe be lower, but you have other buckets that are higher, right? And I think that that's okay, right? As long as you're aware of that and like maybe think of how to get those other buckets up. But I think just like looking at like self-confidence is not one thing, right? It's not like my mind always goes to like appearance, like how you should feel about yourself. But it's
Mhm.
like other things that you do in your life, like your hobbies, your interests, your work life, whatever it is. Think of it as so many buckets. It's like right now, like majority of our buckets are pretty full, right? But there's a couple of them that are maybe halfway. That's like I'm a visual person. And so I think like my self-worth is very high. I know exactly what I should be treated. I know exactly how I should be, what I deserve. And I think what my other self-confidence is I look at like everything in my life and it's like, no, like, I'm very confident in these areas. All these buckets right here are full.
Yeah.
And then maybe these buckets are a little bit lower right now. And so I think for anybody listening, like if you struggle with like self-confidence, self-esteem, like self-worth, like kind of categorizing these definitions and like, okay, my self-worth is knowing my worth, knowing how I should be treated. My confidence is like looking at all these buckets in your life and like how confident you are in these areas is something that I think is very helpful.
Yeah, that's great. And I love that for like having the visual in your mind
Mm-hmm.
because it also like is a great way to measure it without like actually measuring it down on paper. And like these
Yeah.
things, like nobody has time to measure it all out on paper. And so,
Yeah.
because yeah, like a year ago, my self-worth bucket was like here probably because I just didn't know and I hadn't gotten to it yet because there's a
Yeah.
million things to work on all day every day. And but now like I would say it's through the roof. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
understood what self-worth is and I understand what my self-worth is now. And again, it's not complicated. It's basically how you treat people and how you want to be treated, how you deserve to.
Yeah. And I think like throughout the week too, like I think they're all kind of intertwined a little bit. And I think that like if you're having a shitty week because something bad happened at work, that might question your self-worth. Like, well, do I even deserve this? Do I deserve that? But if you kind of think of it as like it was a shitty week at work, but I'm gonna go do XYZ activities where I know I'm gonna do really well in. I
Mhm.
think if those you see those other buckets, then your self-worth shifts too of like, you know what, like I do deserve
Yeah.
the best, even though I messed up on one thing. So I
Yeah.
think like if you think of it too as like they're all their own things. I mean, at the same time, they do intertwine and like they do affect each other, especially if you're feeling low, right? If you're having like maybe not the best day in this area, you
Mhm.
might question your self-worth and like, well, am I even worthy of sitting at the table?
Yeah.
Yeah, bitch, you are. So you're gonna sit at the table, you're gonna sit at the head of the table. And so I think like that they're each thing, but they are intertwined. I think like if you go throughout your life, like knowing that you have several buckets to fill, it's not just your life's not dependent on one meeting, one homework assignment, one
Yeah.
application. Like
Mhm.
there's several things. I think that it shifts your mindset a little bit to be like, well, it's low this week in this, but I got told I didn't do so well, but I'm thriving in the other
Oh,
categories or my other buckets.
yeah. And always consider the source too of what's making you not feel worth it.
Hmm.
They don't know. Again, their
What power are you
perspective.
giving them?
Exactly. Again, it's your, when it comes to your self-worth, it's all about your perspective.
Hmm.
Everybody else could, you know, go climb a tree, really, when it
Yeah.
comes to determining your self-worth.
Go
Um,
climb a tree and take that ladder so you can't get down. No, I'm just kidding.
it could work.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
but I mean it's so important, like what you just said, because it goes back to like who and it like it's such a it's just like I wish like I need to like write these down and put sticky notes. It's like who we give that worth to, right? Like if we're mad because one person's dictating a decision, it's like you're giving them that power to
mm,
hold that much over you if they say yes or no. It's like no, like
Yeah.
Don't give them that much power. It's like we are in control of our lives, and yes, we can't control someone's decision. We can control how much that decision is going to affect us. It's like, what power are we giving them? It's just like, it's like, we need to have these meetings every day. I say this every single day, because it's like, we say it, I acknowledge it, but in situations, it's like, what do I need to do to remember these? Like, they don't control all the power. And if they are, it's because I let them think that, or I gave them that power,
Yeah. And I think, again, like, if you it's a kind of a shift in how you think about it. I think, like, where's I going with this? Again, your self-worth and self-confidence and all the self-esteem, it has really nothing to do with anything tangible anyway. So they quite literally can't take it from you unless you give it away. And and like, it's like, when you think about it that way, you're like, why would I give it away at all? This, like, okay, I get it now. We're not doing that anymore. And it's just like a new approach. Life, a new attitude, that I'm so glad that we talked about it. And I'm just glad, like, I think also sometimes part of it is me just not, like, I'm not dealing with this anymore. Like, you get fed up too. Like, you know what? I'm not dealing with this anymore. It's just
your self-worth buckets, like, filled. Like, you're saying, like, I don't deserve it, that I'm in control, I deserve better. Like, it's like this, such a great, like, enlightenment this has been. Like, this is an enlightening conversation. Like, I hope everyone listening today, like, it's really just like realizing, like, you're a visual person, all these buckets, and that it's nothing. You don't just have one thing, you have so many other areas to look at. I'm gonna go to Target now and get a bunch of water buckets. That's what's gonna happen. And in my office, I'm gonna label all of them, of every single thing in my life going on.
And then write down some sticky notes, throw it in that bucket,
I love that.
Yeah. And so
stay tuned. I will be showing a picture of all the buckets I buy. No, I'm just kidding.
in your new apartment?
My new apartment, my little area of buckets.
You have a bucket room in your new apartment?
Now I do.
So one that I thought was interesting, and that, like, can kind of throw a curveball at us right now, is one of the things that we think determines our self-worth but doesn't, is what we like. And I think that kind of translates into who you are. And that's kind of a self-confidence thing. Like, when you're not validated with the stuff that you like and who you kind of just are, it hurts. Like, it's not a fun feeling, and it can kind of take a shot at your self-confidence. How does that affect your self-worth? This is where it's like, oh,
I need to digest this a little bit. I need to like pieces apart.
So what you like I get insecure when I'm talking about, like, true crime podcasts, and people are like, cool, but then, like, give me a crazy look, and the conversation doesn't go any further. And so it does take a small hit on my self-confidence, and in turn, makes me feel like I deserve less. Why? I don't know. I don't know why it's that logic, but.
So when others don't take an interest, or maybe don't value your interest, it has an effect on your self-confidence and / self-worth, because we know that they're intertwined in a sense.
Yeah.
So 100% I believe that. So I think if especially at work, like if I'm having a conversation with my significant other and I'm talking about work, and I'm freezing. Am I frozen?
Yeah, there you are.
Oh, it's the coffee. If I'm so passionate about something, like I'm like so passionate, I'm talking about like work, and someone's like, my significant other's like, oh, well, that's cool, but like they're not as passionate about me. Like they're not passionate about me. They're not passionate about like something that I'm passionate about. Absolutely, it hits me, because I think like that sucked. I was hoping for more buy-in. I was hoping for more to go with that, because it does affect like your confidence. Like, oh, maybe it's not that big of a deal. Maybe I shouldn't have been so happy about that.
Yeah.
It's hard, yeah, because I think like but then you have to realize, why would he or she be passionate about something like that? I think they're happy for me, but I don't like, no one should be as passionate about it as I am. And that's okay, because why would they be? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's just normal to know, is like, no one's ever going to be as passionate about it as you are. However, they should enable your passion, and they should enable you to be as passionate as you are. But I think it's just like understanding, like, oh, like, don't give them that much power to, if they don't like it, you're upset.
Yeah.
I just in turn know too, like, that's okay. They're not as passionate, but they should at least enable your passion, like enable you to keep being happy about it. But I
Mhm.
think like what you said, if someone's not as passionate about like true crime, that's okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're nice about it, but at the same time, like, don't give them that much power to hold over you if they don't
Right.
like true crime,
Yeah.
Um,
And I think too, it
yeah,
sucks to know that it's on us to
I know.
communicate why this is important to me. And if not, like okay, so like you're talking to Reed.
Mhm.
It's like if I'm talking to Pablo, I have to communicate like how this is important to me. Like I'm learning I can't just like, if I want him to understand why it's important to me, venting about it in like an emotional way is a huge part of it, and I think should be allowed always. But
Yeah.
then I should follow up or like also communicate, like I know I'm like getting really heated about this, but this is why it's so important to me. um which may help you feel a little more confident and like less affected by their reactions. But in general, overall, like you're saying, you can't let their reaction or lack thereof affect the way you feel about it or affect your confidence or
But I think you bring up a good point though, is like, I think it's just like when we think back to that relationship series talk we were doing on relationships, I think it's like how we have to communicate, because if we don't communicate, how do we expect them to know?
Mhm.
So I think you're right. I think there's so many things with this. I think one, communication, right? Communicating why we are the way we are, why we're so passionate, but also like internalizing and being like, you know what though? We shouldn't give that much power if they're not like that into it. And so I think that that's just like a balance of communication, and then your self-worth, and like being validated on just you validating yourself,
Mhm.
but maybe communicating too, so they also can validate your choices as well. So I think it's like this like happy balance of, you don't want to depend too much on other people to validate you, but at the end of the day, like, you still want that validation to happen. It's
Yeah.
like, where's that happy balance of both? I think that that's something to like, as a human being, to like just like keep in the back of your head all the time. It's like, where's this balance of both being validated and having people hold some power, but where's that validation of like my own self-worth and knowing that I hold the power too. So it's
Yeah.
just like, I think having that healthy balance is just really key. At the end of the day, like, it's not something to have always answers to how to do it, but just at least being aware of,
Mhm.
in situations of like, they have that power right now, I need to get that back, or I need to like take less of it because they shouldn't hold that much power over me. I think it's like always just being aware of situations, which is really hard. At the end of the day, as long as you're aware, that's half of the battle, right?
For sure. And like, just, I don't know, like you can't even have to fight your own nature a lot of the time, and just telling yourself like, okay, I'm upset, but there's probably something I'm not understanding, and I probably need to communicate further. That's like the thing
Yeah.
that I'm confident in, but I hate it, is like knowing that I have to dig a little deeper to like
Yeah. It's a
not be so
bitch.
it is a bitch, but I feel like we made a good segue to wrapping up.
Yeah.
If you're ready, I feel like we covered a
I
lot.
am.
We'll post recap
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
we always do. I feel like again, I just want to repeat this from the article.
Hmm.
When it comes to your self-worth, like it said, what did it say? You are the only one who can determine your self-worth. If you believe you are worthy and valuable, you're worthy and valuable. Even if you
Yeah.
don't believe you're worthy and valuable, guess what? You're still worthy and valuable. So
Yeah, you have the power. And I think that's a good, spot to end on. And I will definitely post this today, and we'll, probably midweek post some takeaways, just to let you guys digest this. But no, this is a great conversation. And I think that just especially it's like perfect timing, I think, for all of us in our lives, just to, like, have a reminder like this. And again, like, there's no key answers, right? There's no like, oh, you need to do this and you're going to be better. You know what I mean? Or you're going to do this and
right.
you're going to feel more self-worth. But I think half of the battle to conquering this is just being aware, like being aware of the situations of where you're at right now, like being aware of like everyday, barriers that you maybe face, or everyday situations. So at least just sitting back and like, oh, this is what's happening. Just being aware of like your bucket, your self-worth, the power you give others and the power you hold. Just
Yeah,
always being aware of it, I think, is half the battle. So
for sure. Agree.
great Sunday conversation.
Yeah.
And thank you to all of our listeners, and we love you.
You. We love you. I love you. You, Court.